At least you got that ability to do that. There were a lot of, there we go, recording has started. So excellent. We'll let a few more people come through the door before we get started. Mr. Enright, nice to see you. It's been a while.
Thank you, Abby. Nice to hear you.
Yeah. And I see Mickey is on. So
nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Mickey. And Dan is on. We almost should do roll call just so that I know who's there and who's not. Rick, nice to see you.
Hello.
Okay, you'll be on Thursday night meeting too, right, Rick?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Only we get to reverse roles. You can chair that one for us.
Yeah, I was on the Grand Haven meeting yesterday too, so.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, my week has been a little bit full for night meetings, so.
Yeah, certainly, well, thank you for your dedication. I mean, that's a lot of nights in a row. Yeah.
That's helps to not have the young babies at home anymore, so they're all gone.
Okay.
So that helps. So, all right. Looks like we're getting a pretty good crowd on now. Definitely have, I think it'll be a low, hopefully a low stress meeting. We've still got a number of people that could potentially join us, but we can go ahead and probably get started. So as always, everybody should know where the mute button is. It's going to be up in the right-hand corner of your screen. And you can always raise your hand, and audio is lovely if I could see your face, but not required, because it's always nice after, 12 hours of doing Zoom and video to see people's faces. So just a quick agenda for tonight. Like I said, we don't have a ton of presentations for you tonight, but we've definitely got some stuff to talk about, and so hopefully it can be a pretty interactive meeting. So we'll just do welcome and housekeeping. We'll go through our MPART updates. We're going to talk about public notification recommendations, and I want to pick your brain because you guys have got, let's go back one, Kelly, for me. You guys have got some good ideas on, I'm sure there's some good ideas in this group on discussion points for preventative measures that Dave Wynn brought up, so let's talk about that. Our subcommittees are going to be a little light tonight because we did cancel those meetings because both Bill Creel and Ken Harvey had family things come up that they could not attend, some good, some bad, but they couldn't attend, so we canceled those meetings. So we'll just do those updates here. And then we'll go through agency updates. So, all right, next one, as always, as always, this advisory work group meeting is really a sounding board for process improvements. This is where we should all be obviously respectful of each other, but know that it is an open forum. We're here to listen to all ideas. There's no bad ideas, but we need to have constructive ways of talking with each other. So, in a world of negativity, let's try to keep it positive so we can tackle this pretty big issue. So next slide, Kelly. So we did have one member resign and one member join. So Jeremy Welsh, are you on, Jeremy? Maybe he will join us a little bit later, but I don't know. Oops. Nope. All right, so hopefully Jeremy will join us next time. Just a quick update on the 201 criteria, nothing terribly big, but where did my notes go? but basically it's on its way. It's in the final stages of being wrapped up as an agency report. So we take all the public comments that are received during the public comment period. We have to, the agency writes up a response to those public comments and then determines if that's going to change anything. Those comments and the public comments and the responses then go to the Office of Administrative Hearings and Rules, and then on to the Joint Committee of Administrative Rules for the legislature. So that should happen, I think, within the next week, and then it'll start its process on through JCAR, which is the process for that is that there will be the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules has 15 session days to review the rule package and determine if they want to, if they've got any questions, comments, and then after that, it can either be approved or sent back. Go ahead, Brad.
That was very
Thanks.
dramatic.
Dave got it working though. Good job, Dave. Brad, you had a question? No? Okay. Just want to make sure. If you did.
Yeah, I did have my, am I still on mute?
Nope, now you're good. You're good. Thanks, Brad. Go
Okay,
ahead.
sorry. Yeah, I don't know if it's been finalized yet, but toward the beginning of the year, Water Division was working on looking at revising or updating, I should say, the Rule 57 number for PFOS or PFOA, I believe. And I don't know if you've heard anything about that being finalized and whether that affects the GSI criteria for Part 201.
Great question. The Rule 57 numbers are in the process of being evaluated. We anticipate that the PFOA revision would probably be sent out, and we'll do some pre-communication before it actually goes out there, but that'll probably happen October, November this year. The PFOA number will come down, but according to the evaluation that we have from our internal staff who are working on it, they don't think that it's actually going to, it won't be a driver for most of the cleanups. It'll continue to be PFOS that's the driver for those. So even though it will come down, it doesn't sound like it's going to affect too much. So we'll give everybody a heads up when that happens. So probably our next meeting we'll have some additional topics on that. So you guys will have a chance to take a look at that stuff before it goes into effect.
Great, thank you.
Just so you know, Brad, PFBS is also in process, but we don't think that that's going to be ready for, probably till early or late winter, early spring, sometime in there. So that one, again, probably won't be a driver for any of the sites, but it would be a new water quality standard. So anyways, that will be coming. The Part 201 stuff, my fingers are crossed that gets through the process by the end of the year, and that those additional 5 PFAS standards then are fully promulgated into Part 201. Right now, everybody remembers that we have the 7 MCLs that are under the State Safe Drinking Water Act. Those MCLs then become a criteria under Part 201 for groundwater cleanup. But because some of those compounds, 5 of them, didn't have already established numbers, they have to go through the promulgation process. So that's what's happening right now. And, like I said, barring any unforeseen, issues, that hopefully should be completed by the end of the year. So we'll keep you updated as it progresses. All right. And one last call for Jeremy. Jeremy Welsh, are you on the phone or happen to join us? No? Okay. All right. We'll come back and we'll try him again next month. So let's go to the next slide. So Amy's going to take you through, this is one thing that we want to make sure we do for our future meetings, just so that, you know, we're as transparent as possible. These all come out as part of our MPART updates once a week. If you're on that MPART update email blast, all the new sites that roll through are on there. But just to give you an idea of, these are all the new sites that have been listed since we last met in July. So Amy, can you run through these for everyone?
Yeah, good morning. Sorry, good evening, everybody. So the first one's the Key to Industrial Building. This is a place in Elk Rapids or Antrim County, former tool and die shop, more recently an antique shop and retail facility, and then most recently a boat rental and sales place. These guys conducted a baseline environmental assessment. We reviewed that, and PFOS was as high as 160 parts per trillion here. And before we go any further, for each one of these sites, as soon as we get information from these sites, you know, we reach out to our local health partners and our DHHS partners, and we do an evaluation of residential wells to see if there's any reservoirs in harm's way. So I'm not going to go through the details of each one of those, but all that information about each one of these sites is online on each one of the site write-ups. So I'm just going to kind of cover the real quick overview of each one of these, and then you can go to the website if you want to dig into more of the details here. So, so JB Sims generating plant, there was actually a call about that one last night. This is in Grand Haven. 8 of 10 groundwater monitoring samples exceeded criteria. Highest here was PFOS of 268 part per trillion. Next one is the former Hayes Lemmers site. This is in Ferndale, which is in Oakland County. This is a former research and development facility for chemical additives to gasoline products. Operated from the 30s to the 1980s, at which point they did some manufacturing for a while. Sometime after 2012, they demolished the buildings. So we got, again, another baseline environmental assessment at this site, and this one showed 12 of 28 wells exceeding criteria, highest of which was 96 part per trillion PFOS. Stowe parking lot structure is in Detroit. This is a former foundry, and we figured out this is, you know, an existing parking lot structure today. There was a foundry way back in the day. Plating facility operated from 1922 to 1953. This came in from another BEA, showed 1 of 2 temporary wells above criteria, highest of which was 51 parts per trillion PFOS. The Bray Road site is a site in Flint. This was historically used by the city for drinking water treatment residuals, including lime and ferric chloride. The city started using the site to dump inert materials like concrete and rock, gravel in the 1980s. 1 of 3 groundwater samples exceeded criteria, the highest of which was 30 parts per trillion PFOA. SIB Tools is a historic building in Canton. Is used for manufacturing and including a foundry and used for plating as well. They had waste lagoons on site. 14 of 14 monitoring wells exceeded criteria, the highest of which was 3,220 parts per trillion PFOS. The 3523 Heights Ravenna Road in Muskegon is a location of a former commercial laundromat, operated from 1981 to approximately 2005. Another BEA submitted to us. This one had 3 of 4 groundwater monitoring samples above criteria, highest of which was 221 parts per trillion PFOS. Pollard Landfill in Montrose Township, Genesee County. This is a closed municipal landfill. Highest result here was 150 parts per trillion PFOS. On this particular one, I do know that they are working with DHHS and local health actively now to evaluate any reservoirs that need to be sampled. And then the last one is called the North State Road Area of Interest. This is in Ionia. We had a public water supply, a little mobile home community that where we had some hits of PFAS during some statewide sampling efforts. And that led our staff to kind of look for potential sources in the area, and they kind of honed in on a discount battery in Ionia and sampled their well and sampled several of their residential wells. The discount battery site came up non-detect, but we had 5 wells, I believe it was, residential wells, that were over criteria. So we clearly have a source in the area. We don't have the source identified, so that's why it's an area of interest at this point. And then I'll end by mentioning we have many other sites working their way through the process right now. We keep finding them. So, but that's what I got for happened the last 2 months. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Amy. Any questions for Amy before we keep going on? I think it's important for you guys to know what's going on. So go ahead.
I have a question. This is Connie. I'm not sure you can hear me because I'm on the phone. I'm not on Microsoft Teams.
We can hear you,
Okay,
Connie.
great.
Go ahead.
Good. Listen, are there any results on waste management's Woodland Meadows, the 2 closed landfills, or the existing RDF, which is located in Van Buren Township and Canton Township? Any results? Because I know that was supposed to be examined by the state or investigated, and I never hear anything about it.
Amy, unless you've got specific, that's not ringing any bells with me. We'd have to probably check with staff and see if we can find anything out.
Yep, we're gonna have to follow up on that one. That one is not on my radar screen.
No,
Huh,
and you think it's called
because
Woodlawn Meadows?
Okay.
Is that what you called it, Connie?
yeah, well, they have a north landfill, which is an unlined landfill. They have a south landfill right beneath it, which is unlined. And then they have a lined landfill, which is called Woodland Meadows RDF, Recycling and Disposal Facility. But it's right next to the Rouge River. And I mean, 2 out of their 3 landfills are unlined. So we know we're going to have PFAS, but it should be a high priority site. But it was designated, I think, as a middle priority, which makes no sense to me for unlined landfills.
Probably the first priority were those that had immediate drinking water wells around the landfill themselves.
Well, there are 13 drinking water wells, which are, and that's something that people constantly assume, and it's not true. We have 13 groundwater wells in the area.
Okay.
So don't assume because you're in Wayne County that automatically you're on, Great Lakes Water Authority water. That's not true.
Yeah, no,
we've been groundwater wells there.
We've been trying to follow up with, because when you pull up Well Logic, there's a lot of wells that do show up. So we want to make sure that we follow up on those. So Connie, we'll have to get back with you on that one. I think,
that's fine. Sure, thanks.
I don't think we've got a lot of good information. Kelly, did you want to add something?
I was just going to say that we can put Jim Arduin back in contact with her. Connie, I think you've talked to him in the past.
Yeah, he wasn't real helpful, but yeah.
I do know that the middle tier landfills are on their list, and they're trying to get to making contact and making sure that those landfills all get sampled this year. But I think they're running into a few problems with some of them. So let's talk to Jim, and we'll try to get you an update on that one.
Sounds great. Thanks, Amy.
Okay. Any other questions on these or thoughts or that you want to have contact with? Okay, we'll try to do this. I think this is something that is important for you guys to know. So we'll try to do this every meeting, is just do a quick synopsis of what's new on the list so you can kind of see the trend that's going here. So yeah, Mickey.
I have a question in terms of what's new on the list from a visual standpoint. Would it be possible when you present this each month to put the new ones like in a different color, like in green or in gold or something, so that they pop out visually so you know exactly where on the map the new sites are? It's not a requirement, it's just a suggestion, because the new sites are all over the state. And so it might be helpful, and I'll stop there.
No, I think that's a great idea. I think, Kelly, we get this generated with one of our mapping things, but I don't think it would be that hard to put a couple of different color dots over the top of them, right?
Yep, I can I can manually put the different color dots on it for next time.
Yeah.
We could try it. I don't mean to make extra work for people, but if each time we saw this, the numbers show that it's increasing, and if we could just see the new ones each time, it might be helpful. But if it's not helpful and it's a lot of extra work, I can drop it. I'd just like to try it for 1 month.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've got some other things coming that I think you will find helpful as well. So, suggestion. All right, other thoughts? All right, let's go ahead on to the next slide then. All right, so you guys gave a great public notification recommendation in July, which is, I just really want to take a minute here before I go into the details, but just thank you guys for, you guys did a lot of meetings. There was many months of discussions on what that entailed and what it included. And so that was a lot of hard work and deliberate discussions that really went into that. That has really generated some really good discussions internally on better ways that not just MPART, but all of Eagle can do, what can we do to make things more transparent and easier for the public to get their hands on the information and the data. So it's really challenged our thinking. And I think we all share that goal of making sure that our communities are informed, educating our public, making sure people have the data to make decisions for themselves and their families. So we've really taken that public notification recommendations and have really started to implement a lot of the things, the essence of what you guys were trying to go for. And we've started to implement these pieces and parts. It's not going to be one fell swoop where everything just drops in all at once, but we're going to continue to try to do additional things as we go through time here. So let me talk about some of the things that we've done so far. Let's go to the next slide. So just to recap the stuff that we've already been doing, this is the stuff that's already going on. You know about all the site identifications, you know about the areas of interest. It's all on one table now. When you look on MPART, it's all combined on one table. The areas of interest and the PFAS sites are all there. So you don't have to search for them. We've got just a whole bunch of information on the MPART website that's constantly updated for people. And so I think that's, tons of good information there. We do a lot of outreach, notwithstanding these meetings, but we've got advisory group meetings that are ongoing on a regular basis for Wordsmith, Wolverine, Kalamazoo River, and a number of other sites that are either Eagle sponsored or MPART sponsored. The public presentation number, probably not, it's more than 8 in 2021, but and at least 6 of our sites have their own listserv. So another way that we're trying to get to those specific communities. Those are things that we've been doing. As Amy said, every time we get a new site, we not only contact local public health and DHHS to understand res wells, but we do local official calls. So who's the township supervisor, who's the mayor, who's the legislative leads, who all needs to know about these sites, even if it's just a little, 2 hits of PFOS somewhere. Everybody needs to know so they have that information for their citizens. So they're either getting an email, they're getting a town hall, or they're getting a local official calls. In some cases, they're getting all of it. So those are the things that we continue to do. I think it's really good for public outreach, and I think it's a good basis for going. The next slide. We've talked about precautionary res well samples, but I think this really gets to the heart of some of the issues that we have been talking about early on. In those specific situations where you don't have any data, but we really, in the cases of our airports, know that AFFF's already been used, probably released, and we pretty sure we have some contamination, although we don't have the data to support it yet. And we know we have vulnerable drinking water wells that, you know, in some cases there's a lot of drinking water wells, in some cases there's just a few, but they're usually going to be sensitive receptors, drinking water wells close by. In those cases, I don't think notification was enough. You know, it's not, in the cases of those where we really know we've got a highly suspected situation, it's not enough to notify. We really needed to do an extra step. So we've developed this protocol where we're not just notifying these residents that they may be at risk, we're going out and just sampling them. This is usually being done in advance of the work being done at the airport. Usually they haven't even hardly gotten started. But we'll go out and do those residential drinking water samples. So we work with local public health, work with DHHS, work with the local officials. In many cases, our project managers and the toxicologists from DHHS are going door to door to get these samples. I know Kim Sikowski was on here probably in May or June talking about what the stuff she did around Lansing Capital Airport. That's being done, so far that's being done at 9 different airports around the state to make sure that we have not only the notification piece of it done, but, you know, we need to take preventative precautionary steps. So I think that gets to the goals and the essence of what you guys were trying to accomplish with your you know, residential or public notification process. Let's go to the next slide because I want to show you which wells. So these are the ones that we've done precautionary residential drinking water sampling around so far. The results haven't been terribly high, which is good news for all of us. But in some cases, we've found a couple of homes that are above criteria. So Sandy, you want to jump in real quick with a quick question? Oops, you got to unmute yourself though.
A long day. On that last slide, then you are notifying residents as well as, I just didn't see notification as one of the bullet points there.
Yeah, we're going door to door through the neighborhoods to knock on the doors. They get, usually they'll get a letter requesting access to sample their wells and the reason why, but the letters don't work that great. So usually it's the knocking on doors and talking to people that works better. So they usually are getting a letter, a phone call, and a knock on the door to get access.
Excellent, great, thank you.
Yep, yep. So Tony, do you want to talk about this slide or the next slide?
No, the same one. Is my question was similar to Sandy's because I didn't see any notification in there, and I'm just wondering what because the essence of what I thought we recommended was that people be notified as soon as an investigation has begun, and I don't see that any place. So I'm just wondering, are you waiting to go to like identify potentially impacted sites, then asking permission to take testing? How does that, what is the notification that you're giving look like, and when does it happen?
Good question. Let's go to the next slide and let's walk through a couple examples. All right, so let's look at the Marquette County Airport. That's one that's a pretty unique situation. The airport's actually gone. So it was a former airport. They're actually redeveloping the property now. And so there's some residential homes that are actually on the footprint of the former airport. In that case, as soon as once the airports all got these grants, they all got grants to start doing work. In many cases, before they even did the work, we have had staff go out and evaluate all the res wells in the immediate area to see which ones are most vulnerable, which ones are the shallowest, which ones are potentially in the worst locations, either for groundwater flow direction or for former source areas that if we know. And in some cases we didn't know. So Marquette County Airport, I think, Amy, what have we done? 3 different rounds of step outs for that particular airport. I want to say it's at least 3.
It's a total of a total of 57 homes so far.
Yeah, so I think it was 3 different, and as we stepped out, we kept finding a few, and so it's turned into like 57. So along the way, as we're trying to get access, we are doing calls with local officials, calls with local public health department, and of course the airport people as well. And so the residents are getting, the personal invite from staff to be tested and the reason why they're being tested. And then we are doing, in some cases we're doing town halls before the sampling. Some cases we've done town halls after the sampling. If we want to get out there and get the sampling done right away, we'll do some town halls. Marquette, we've done one for that former airport, but I think we'll need to do a second one because now we've got a little bit more results and more sampling to share with them. But that notification is done iteratively. So it's not like it's one big press release. In this particular case, the local health department did the press release to the community to talk about the sampling, and that seemed to work really well. So every site is a little bit different. We kind of talk to the local officials and talk to the local public health about the best way to reach their community. And so we've kind of been tailoring these not as one, you must do this, this, and this, more as, okay, what's the best way for our staff to reach your community so that we can get access? Because, literally the Marquette County one, Steve Harrington up in our Marquette office he's probably spent a total of a couple of weeks now going door to door to make sure and talking with these, because there was one home that has got pretty significant concentrations, and so he's working very hard to try to find a solution for them. So, Mickey, your hand is still up. Do you have another question?
I apologize for that. I must have been a mistake. I don't have another question. I'm just might be helpful. And again, I'm just looking at these slides from a visual perspective. Mm-hmm. Might be helpful if there was, I know that MBS is Midland Bay City, Saginaw Airport downstate. I'm not sure that everybody else knows that that's where it's located. It's near Midland. I used to live there. So again, if it's helpful in your drawings to have like a map showing these locations, where the residential well sampling was done, that again, I keep asking for more visual aids, but I find that when I present a lot of technical information as a patent attorney, I lose my audience after 3 slides with a lot of data, and I have to throw in a picture and I'm not mocking anybody in this audience. I know we're all paying attention, but anything that could be used to break it up a little bit with a picture or something or a map, I would recommend. And I'm sorry that I raised my hand again. I really didn't intend to speak twice.
That's all right. That's all right. No, I agree with that. And actually, I've got a couple more updates. This isn't the only thing that we've been doing or the only proposed change that we want to make. So I do have some more stuff that I want to share with the group, but I want to make sure I answer everybody's questions. So Tony, did you have another question?
Yeah, I did. So just to be clear, so it looks to me like the main change that's been made is with regard to residential wells, moving up the timing of the sampling of the wells as opposed to what's done in the past. Okay. Yeah, is that accurate?
For those that are most at risk, yes. Yes. Obviously, we're still working to try to keep everybody informed as much as we can. And the local official calls are still happening fairly quickly. Because some of these, we don't know about them until the data shows up from a baseline environmental assessment. Some of them, like the airports, we kind of see coming that we know that the sampling needs to be done and we got to get out ahead of it. So it's kind of a mix of both. But as soon as we get information like this, we are setting up the meetings as quick as possible and getting local officials and the legislators informed so we can get them, and then obviously getting them out on the website as quick as we can too.
Okay, so it's just a couple more clarifications. So it sounds like this approach has been taken to address, I suspect, the concern within Eagle about notifying people of a potential problem as opposed to an actual one. Is that kind of a compromise that was made from the recommendation, or
I think we're looking at ways to do more than this too. This hits a couple spots. One, obviously, it lets people know about an investigation. Two, it lets people know who might really be at risk that we want to sample their wells, and gets them evaluated first thing. That I think needed to be done. And I think that's a really good change. I don't think that this is a compromise. I think this is step one in a longer view process of what does full public notification look like. So I'm not going to say it's a compromise because I don't think it's the end. I think this is the first step of that process for us, because we've had we're having more internal discussions on this whole thought process of really how do you really truly inform people. Especially in our world, it's tough to get things through people's heads, even if you send them 5 different notes, but they never open their mail. How do you make sure they know?
Sure. And the other question I had is, this is being done for residential wells. For the surface water, I take it you haven't gotten to that issue yet. Is that accurate?
Good segue. Good segue. Let me tell you what we're going to do for surface water. So let's see. Hold on. Yes, here we go. So upcoming changes. I have, and I just got the first draft of it, so I think we're getting close. I'm hoping in the next month, hopefully the next month, we will have a GIS, to Mickey's point about visuals, we will have the GIS layers. So if you go to the MPART website right now and you bring up the GIS map of all the MPART sites, it looks a lot like what Kelly just had up. You bring up all of those dots of all the different sites. We're going to have that same map with a layer of all the surface water data to date on it for PFAS. So you can pick out every single little dot, click on it, and be able to see those concentrations for that surface water body and understand what is going on in the state. Now, we have some limitations in that we won't be able to show you the actual analytical lab sheet, but we'll give you a snapshot. Here's the PFOS concentration. Here's the PFOA concentration, those kinds of things. So all of that surface water data, we were just waiting for the last, we just got, gosh, probably 50 more samples from the UP that just came in this week. They wanted to get those uploaded as well. So that is in process, and I'm going to push the team hard to try to get that done so you guys can see it next month. So that's going to be a huge, huge improvement, and I think will be really, really great for people to be able to visualize. The other one will be the drinking water data. We will have dots on the map for all of the municipal drinking water supplies sampling to date. So we recall that we did sampling in 2018, 2019, 2020 with Eagle, where Eagle was doing the sampling with a contractor to actually take those samples, put them all on the website. Those can all be downloaded as different data sets from our drinking water sampling initiatives. Now that it's flipped and now the municipal water systems have to do the sampling, they submit the data to Eagle. We're still getting that data into our system. It just takes a little bit longer, but all of the data to date is going to get uploaded and put on a GIS layer as well. So you can see an overlay of, here's your PFAS sites, here's your surface water data, here's your drinking water data for the municipal systems. So if somebody's in Southeast Michigan and they want to check out what's in their backyard for potential sampling, they can do that. There's a lot of surface water data through there that's been sampled. They can check out the PFAS sites, and they can look at their system for drinking water. So those are all the big things that are coming. In addition, a little bit longer down the road, we're working on a way to get the fish data, the fish advisories on the same map. So what I'd like to see is the ability for you guys to be able to click on a water body, not only see the surface water data, but click on the water body and be able to see, hey, there was trout caught here, or there was sunfish caught here, or there was, whatever kinds of fish. But then based on the sampling that's been done to date, either PFOS might be driving the fish advisory, it might be a mercury advisory, it might be a PCB advisory, but here's the advisory for that water body. And so that, again, people can make informed decisions based on knowing what's in their backyard. So that's going to take a little bit longer, just because it takes the actual fish data, combines it with the health recommendations of servings per month per person, and combines it all together to actually give the driving. In some cases, PFOS has been sampled, but the mercury concentrations are still higher and would not be the driving force. So, or the mercury usually is still the driving force for some of these health advisories for fish. So, but I'd like to get that on the map. I don't think that'll happen. I'm hoping it can happen soon, by the end of the year, but we're going to continue to push on that to see. So that visualization piece is going to be really, really key. The other things, we've got a couple other things that we're working on. Some of the things that you guys talked about besides public notification, you guys really hit on the education piece and the information, being able to see it visually. So the education piece, we're looking at putting together a series of videos of short clips that are a little bit easier to digest than maybe some of our technical talks. People don't necessarily want to listen to a whole hour-long lecture about PFAS. What can they listen to that's a little bit more digestible? So our own Mike Jury has narrated a video for us, and I think it turned out fairly well. Kelly's going to play it for you as long as she turned on her sound. Can you make it full screen too, Kelly?
You've probably heard a lot about PFAS in the news. PFAS refers to a family of man-made chemicals that were first created in the 1940s. PFAS are the main ingredient in a lot of products that not only save lives, but make our lives easier. We're talking about firefighting foam, water and stain-proofing products, and grease-resistant food packaging. Although these products offer a lot of benefits, scientists have found that PFAS do not break down easily in the environment. Once there, PFAS chemicals can travel through water and enter the bodies of people and animals. This is concerning because PFAS can build up over time in people, fish, and animals. PFAS have been linked to some health problems like human reproductive and immune system issues and certain cancers. Since 2017, Michigan has been looking for sources of PFAS in the environment by testing drinking water, lakes and streams, and groundwater. We've found really low amounts of PFAS nearly everywhere we've looked for it, but we've found higher amounts at places like airports, tanneries, landfills, and metal plating businesses. Because we found PFAS at some of these locations, Michigan started testing public drinking water supply systems for PFAS in 2018. About 75% of Michigan residents get their water from a community public water supply, which you are likely connected to if you get a water bill. You can find the PFAS test results for your water supply by contacting your local municipality or by visiting Michigan's PFAS Action Response Team's website. If your home uses well water and you're concerned about PFAS, consider testing your water. For more information, call your local health department or the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services hotline.
All right. So we're looking at a series. Thank you. I thought it was great. I think Mike's got a very soothing voice for talking about something that could be a little alarming. So I thought it turned out really, really well. So we're looking at doing like a whole series of those short clips that could be used in a variety of different educational settings. So whether or not you're going to a public meeting and you guys just want to share something, or you want to attach something to a homeowner, we could include that kind of a clip, and that would be short enough that people might actually watch the whole thing. So what do you think, Tony?
Two things. Congratulations to Mike, but I do think that these are improvements, but I still don't see any embracing here of notifying people at the commencement of an investigation. I don't see those words anywhere, and I see in the changes, we're talking about website changes and videos, but I don't see that concept being embraced, and that was really the core, I think, of what was being recommended. And so I guess my question is, are you on the way there or not?
Well, I think for the airports, we're definitely on the way there, because we've notified people that these investigations are going on, and the intentions are, as soon as the first round of sampling is done and we get some Reservoir's results and we get that phase 1 of the airport data, we're looking at doing public meetings so people can be informed more about those investigations. So yeah, I think we're trying to get out there and do that public notification as soon as possible. I think we've notified local officials, and I think that, we want some additional, we're going to continue to have additional feedback and have additional discussions with you guys about more that we can do. I don't think at this point, this is like I said, step 1 of those things that are more easily implementable, and then we can continue to improve upon it. I think, getting local officials to understand the situation is the first step in my mind, because once they know, then you can have they can be there to answer questions, your local health departments, and versus having, meetings where we don't have anybody showing up. So, but yeah, I think we're trying to, Tony. I think the answer to your question is yes, we're trying to get to that point of doing those notifications at the beginnings of the investigations. Is it going to be perfect in all situations? No, but especially in the cases where it looks like we're going to have residential drinking water wells that need to be sampled, you should be notifying people right at the beginning.
I guess, when are we going to know whether or not this has been really embraced or not? Because to me, you're sort of dipping your toes in the water right now. And again, I think, don't get me wrong, I think there are improvements, but I think there was a pretty clear recommendation made, and it doesn't seem like there is an enthusiastic embrace of it at this point.
Well, we're still having internal discussions. So, I think that this is going to be an ongoing conversation and an ongoing implementation of this. There's a lot of work that gets done in the department in all different programs and in all different ways. And to, make that commitment is a huge effort, and frankly, there's a lot of resources involved. So not all of it is up to me, but like I said, Liesl Clark, the director of EGLE, this is one of her main priorities, is transparency and working towards connecting with communities. And so we're going to continue to have those internal conversations. So let me just commit to you, Tony, that those conversations will continue. We're not done. This is, in my view, this is step 1. So let me finish this slide so we can continue on, because I think we do have some additional topics that will be of interest to you guys as well. In addition to the residential, we've done some videos for residential drinking water well sampling in cases where we've got small sampling areas or we've got residential investigation updates. We're trying to make it more bite-sized so we can get people to actually, sign the access forms and get out and do sampling. So some of that stuff has been recorded on YouTube and updated and linked out and given out that way. And then we're going to, continue to provide updates to sites for you guys so that we can turn around and then have you guys, stay connected with your communities as well. Some of the questions that have come up in our discussions, if we can go to the next slide, Kelly, is so some of these ongoing discussions that we've been having are how do we work, and this is a question to all of you because I really would like your input on this. How do we establish like area-based networks to kind of be clearinghouses for when we are doing investigation sampling in an area? How do we, besides just assessing those particular homes that we're trying to sample or those local officials, if there were networks that could act as clearinghouses? That was one idea that we had that we thought might be a more regional approach that could be helpful. The other thing we were talking about is how do we give you guys information that you can go back and share with your communities, because we've got people on this COG from pretty much the whole entire state. Everybody's representing a different region of the state. How do we give you information to be able to share with your local communities as well, to be able to be that liaison and be that voice of connection where sometimes we may not be. And then we were talking about continuing on with additional videos and other pieces of information that can be used for education pieces. But I'd be interested in getting more input on those types of opportunities and what you guys thought of that, or if you've got other ideas. So Rick?
Yeah, I think, I don't know about networks, but I certainly support having more community groups involved. And I think like Safe Water for Cascade is a good example of a community group that was organized and the data was shared with them. I think it's hard to have a network site, but I think the best thing is to have local people that are impacted by the PFAS issue to have a community organization of some sort.
Mm-hmm. And in that case, the Safe Water for Cascade could be that network for disseminating information, because you've got 400 or 500 different homeowners that are on that particular group.
When you said network, I thought you'd be talking about multiple sites, but I think one community group for each site would be really good. And it could be a smaller group or up to 500 like the Safe Water for Cascade. But I think getting the data to the individuals and then having them ask questions and that's all really good. So.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Rick. Sandy?
Yeah, I was going to agree with Rick. I think to notify the public, though, it's really got to come from Eagle or MDHHS or somebody like that who can answer the questions and explain what's going on. I think the support after the notification that's occurred can come from whatever groups, whether it's local COG members that are nearby that area that can be a support or helping to organize other community groups or whatever that is. But I think the public notification really has to come from Eagle and MDHHS and whoever else is involved so that the information can be disseminated. I don't think you can expect a network of citizens to do that.
I think what I was, in my head, I was thinking like if Eagle was to do a write-up for an area, or we have even a pre-recorded type of information session that could get disseminated through those channels. Not that the not the community group is actually trying to answer the questions, but that they can disseminate it so that it touches more people than the listserv or something from Eagle might do, because we don't we don't necessarily reach all of the different levels. I'm thinking, we would send stuff to Plainfield Township and they would send it out on their township newsletter, or you guys would post something through the Wolverine CAG to get a different set of people. So the more that we can network these kinds of notifications, investigation updates, just awareness pieces, I think are important.
Yeah, I think for investigation updates that would work, but I think for the initial notification that you're not going to have a group together till everybody knows they got a problem. That's how you get a group. So you got to notify people first, and then a group can pull together, and then from there do the rest of the investigation notifications.
Okay. Other thoughts on that, or other ideas on, how that notification process would work, just to make sure you get good coverage for the notification itself? We've got some additional topics that are probably going to cross over into this anyways. So let's go to the next slide, because this kind of, the conversation that I think, Dave, you had an email that talked about preventative measures, and I wanted to have a brainstorm about that itself, just to collect the ideas on what that meant to everybody, how that might look, what kind of efforts that might encompass, because I think that, the notification, the education, the public awareness are all pieces of the same coin. They all go together when you're working at these things. So the more that we can make people aware of PFAS or aware of contamination in general, the more they'll be thinking about it, and we'll have better conversations and be able to have those networks a little more firmly established. So Dave, you want to talk a little bit about your thoughts when you were writing up that email and what you had going through your mind?
Yeah, thanks, Abby. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm. We can.
Okay. First off, I want to say that the MPART website it has a wealth of information. I typically go on that website probably once a month, just either before these meetings or sometime, to gather and find a lot of information. When I was on there a little over a week ago, one of the things I look at is the amount of the different PFAS sites. And I noticed that as of the September 9th, there were, as you presented tonight, there were 181 sites, of which in the past map, which was dated July 28th, there were 175. So just in 5 weeks' time, there have been additional 6 sites that were added, and they continue to get added, as I can see from these slides. Okay, so what I did was I went into the data set information that you guys have on the sites, and when I pulled it up, I was able to look at who or what is creating a lot of these sites. And if you look at it, you got military and airports, which we all know is probably PFAS foam. You got automotive and manufacturing, which is either 3M or DuPont products in their manufacturing process. And then you've got dumps and landfills, which we all know are the different products that are out there that are used in today's market. Okay. So my issue was, as I started looking at this, I said, okay, when you get new sites, Eagle has to identify manpower to put on it. They have to spend tax dollars in order to do the testing and all the other work that goes along with it, which I'm sure is obviously in short supply on both ends as far as Eagle or the state of Michigan's involved. So I said, okay, what are we doing if not in our time, but our children's time? Okay. I mean, we can't put, I don't know if we can go back and put the genie in the bottle, but if you look at it, what can we do from a preventative measure standpoint? You know, we're always being reactive, as we notice and go through all this presentation, months after months after months. We look at it and we're being reactionary. We're notifying people. We're doing testing. So everything is reactionary or being reactive versus being proactive. Okay. And just so that everybody understands, and this is why I wanted to talk about it at this forum, that's what I believe this group is all about, is we are the Citizens Advisory Group. So every year there's representation throughout the entire state of people that are on this call. But if you look at it, you've got the state of Maine, and I went back and did a little more digging. The state of Maine has actually enacted laws, have passed laws in their state that prohibit people and companies in their state from actually using PFAS products. So if you look at it, to me, that's a preventative measure. They're not allowing people now, whether it be legislative, whether it be us being able to do anything. But I know with the landfills and certain things, sooner or later, we're going to have to become proactive. So that's why I wanted to maybe get some other ideas from other people on this call as to what can we do going forward. Maybe not today, but what can we do to be proactive versus being reactive?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great. I'd love it. Let's just throw the ideas out there, because I'd like to hear anything and everything in that respect, because it's a huge topic, and I know we wrangle with it every day at the MPART level, trying to say, okay, how do we turn this boat around after 60 years of, you know, sailing down this one corridor? We got to turn the big boat around and find a new path. And it's a difficult task. So Charlie, tell me your great ideas.
Oh, I hesitate to call them a great idea. Can you hear me?
We can, Charlie.
Oh, thanks. I really like this recommended approach of being proactive rather than reactive. And I was wondering if, you know, as far as the COG is concerned, if this might be something that a subcommittee could embrace with people who have an interest in moving this forward. You know, there's a limited amount of time that we can spend on it this evening, obviously, other than to gauge interest and whatnot. But in terms of actually doing some work and looking at what other states are doing, it really seems like we're dealing with a failure of the Toxic Substance Control Act based on what I've read about this topic of no regulation for PFAS. You know, it'd be good for interested folks to get together and, you know, over a period of time, talk about this. And I will go offline.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot to talk about. So, okay, Tony, tell us your great ideas.
Well, I just wanted to throw out and emphasize that Dave mentioned the law that was adopted in Maine, which is similar to that's being implemented in the European Union. It's something that we could do as a state. I mean, Maine really has taken the lead on this in the United States. Instead of, I hate to say, to downplay this and turn it, instead of playing whack-a-mole, chasing these sites around after people are being poisoned and the environment's being contaminated, we need, in my view, we need to stop the spigot, stop the chemicals from being put into commerce until they're proven safe. And Abby, I know that's probably above, maybe a little bit outside of your bailiwick here, because that's not necessarily an enforcement thing, because we need a change in the law and the policy of the state in order to do it. But I think we need to start looking at that. Other states around the country, California's got a bill on the governor's desk to ban PFAS in food packaging products. As Dave said, landfills are popping up all over because it's in so many different things. So I think it's a statewide policy that from my perspective, I would ask you to take to your bosses and talk to them about trying to implement that.
Mm-hmm. And we've discussed such things because, you know, I think the big question in my mind, it's one thing to put something on paper that says we're going to ban PFAS, but can you implement it? Can you really, do you have some alternatives? So Mike Jury's on, and I told him I might throw him out there for you guys to listen to, because he's been working with a couple of different groups to look at PFAS-free foams, and do PFAS-free foams really work for firefighting? Can they really extinguish a fire the way they need to in the time frames? Do they work as well as the PFAS-containing foams? So not only do we need to ban it, but we need to provide proven alternatives that are going to be reliable. That's where we're at. And I worry about getting too far ahead of ourselves and not letting the science catch up or the technology catch up, because we have a situation where, okay, we want to make everything fluorine free so we don't have any PFAS showing up. Great. But we got to make sure, like you said, with the Toxic Substance Act, we have to make sure that the stuff that we're replacing it with isn't worse or isn't more toxic than what we've just taken off the market. So I'm there with you, and I think we have to do this smart, and I would like to see those kinds of bans enacted as well. But I also want to have alternatives. So one of the things internally we're working on is looking at how do we support our firefighters so they have not only know what they're using, because a lot of them thought they were buying green foam only to find out, no, it really does still have PFAS in it. And then working with some of these outside organizations to figure out who's actually doing certification, who's actually testing this kind of stuff to understand what the levels are that they're working on. So Mike, you want to give a little blurb on the kinds of things that you guys have been talking about with, he's been working with Minnesota, Wisconsin, and some of his other friends on his group. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. Well, just a second here. I have a dog going crazy.
Okay. Sandy, you want to say a few words while Mike is calming his dog?
Sure. I was on a call last night with some legislators out of the Ann Arbor area who are looking at pushing for legislation to ban all of the PFAS chemicals, all 6,000, in things like cosmetics and packaging and food packaging and things like that. Whereas, you know, while I would like to think those will help my face if I put them on, that's probably not going to make that big of a difference if it's PFAS free. And so I think we can start with ways like that. I think the thing we've got to not do is get ourselves talked in circles. We may just have to make that leap and decide we're not going to use this anymore. And I suspect industry will quickly catch up if they can make a fortune on it. So I think we could, I think other states have done that, where Maine has done that, banning it except for essential use. And I think that's what we can look at, but we're going to have to push people to do it.
Yeah, and so what does essential use mean?
Well, not cosmetics.
Right, but the other point in all this is that when you look at what does a ban mean, something that I've run into that is worrisome is, what does PFAS free mean? What is the number? Is it non-detect? Is it 1 part per million? What's that number? So when you look at legislation, always make sure that you look at what is the magic number? What is considered PFAS free? I don't know that non-detect is doable to say, but there should be a number. So as Abby said, we're working with a lot of different states, and I am on a couple different work groups. So one is AFFF, because it would seem like that would be something fairly simple to do and get out of our system. So the state of Michigan is going to go back and start pickup program 2, we hope in October. So we're going to get more of the PFAS containing AFFF off the street. One of the things that we also did was get carts out to airports so they could do the testing that is required by FAA and not have to spray PFAS containing foam on the ground. That was just really crazy. So we are working on that. As Abby said, unfortunately, some of the green things that were out there for AFFF turned out to be more toxic than the things right now that have PFAS in them. More toxic to fish, more toxic to wildlife. So we have to make sure that when we're looking at that we're picking smartly and wisely. So always on this legislation, I'm sorry that I haven't read Maine's legislation. So ask yourself, and maybe it doesn't say in the legislation, what does PFAS free mean? I don't know what that means because I haven't read the legislation, but it would be good if you made legislation to have, what does that mean, PFAS free? Does it mean it does not contain PFAS above 100 parts per billion, 1 part per you need a number. Because if I'm industry and I sell you something that's PFAS free, I'll say, it doesn't have any PFAS above a part per million. Would you be satisfied with that? I'm not. In the world of AFFF, I'm not satisfied with that. So we are working on that part of the puzzle to try to come up with something. When you look at how much PFAS in AFFF is used every year, not just in the state, but across the United States, the world, it's pretty amazing. So one thing I would mention, and I don't know how you do this, how do we know which products have PFAS in them? As a consumer, I look at stuff and I try to guess whether or not it has PFAS in it, and I don't purchase it. I try to find something else that I can use. So yeah, cosmetics, Sandy, you're absolutely correct. The European Union has done a lot of looking into that. And so maybe, I don't know, it would seem like maybe silicones could be used, but what's the chemistry of silicones? Are those a problem? I'm not positive, not being a toxicologist. But so one of the things we can do as consumers is, 1, don't buy a product that has it in it. 2, try to find out from manufacturers to make sure that products don't have it in it. And then the other point, like you said, what is essential? I'm not positive. Is Gore-Tex essential for me if I'm out hiking? Well, I could probably go back to the old nylon coated or rubber coated type stuff and sweat a lot more. So I would tell you, though, if I'm in the military, I might really appreciate having Gore-Tex materials to fight a war in. Having been in the military for 20 years, you're doing a lot of physical exertion, and having a breathable fabric that is really good, that might be an essential thing. But as I said, for the everyday sportsman, maybe not. Do I really need waders that are Gore-Tex waders? Don't know. So we need to help ourselves figure out what's essential, what's not. And as good consumers, look at things, try to determine what might have PFAS in them, what might not, and use our power of our pocketbook. My gosh. And the other thing is, too, if you can get manufacturers, Sandy, you're absolutely correct. If there's a buck to be made in the United States, by gosh, we'll find somebody to make that dollar. And that's why I'm always pretty confident that we'll find ways to break down PFAS, because there's a dollar to be made, and there's a lot of research out there that's coming up with ways.
That's a good point, Mike. So what I'm hearing is I don't know if you meant to say, but PFAS labeling. How about a law to make sure that PFAS is labeled so that we know what's in our products? Because it is just a total guess. And it doesn't matter if it's my household cleaners, or if it's my cosmetics, or if it's, your cars can't be made without PFAS right now. There's a lot of other materials that aren't being made without PFAS right now that you would never suspect. So labeling would probably be a huge first step. And then the consumers can really drive the market with their pocketbook, because I think that's a really a big piece. And then understanding the alternatives. I think that's the smart thing, is we've got to understand the alternatives. But starting with small chunks that are easily doable and it can be successful. That's where I want to, I think we need to probably reach out to the Maine folks and see how they are implementing their PFAS ban. So I think that's a good one to reach out and talk with them about that. So I'd like to do that. But Dave, you had your hand up for a minute, so why don't you go ahead and give us your 2 cents.
Yeah, Mike Jury just brought up as he was talking, it kind of brought to my attention. You mentioned the labeling, but I'm just wondering if there's any way we could put together, we as a group could down the road put together a list of products that we see either think may have PFAS in them or we know has PFAS in them, and get that out to put that on the MPART website and get it out to different communities. Say, hey, these are products that have PFAS in them. Maybe so that people look at those, because if you as the normal consumer don't know that it has PFAS in it, you're not going to be any wiser. If you had a list that said these products have this in it, okay, sooner or later, that's going to make the manufacturer of those products stand up and say, wait a minute, the community knows that we have PFAS in our products. We got to do something. So if we had a list or compile some sort of a list that says these are products that we know or think may have PFAS in them, I think that would probably be a huge start.
That's a great point, Dave. Great point. Sandy, you still got your hand up. Did you want to finish your thought?
No, I just forgot to take it down. Sorry.
So
yeah, Dave, one of the issues on the labeling thing, of course, is that the internet is a blessing and a curse. I used to be able to find information on surfactants that were used in different products that the manufacturer said had PFAS in them, and those are gone. And I wasn't wise enough to take a screenshot of those sites. I wish I had now. Fortunately, I remember the name of the chemical company that was making these products, so I do have that. But they used to have a list of, and they showed recipes for how to make dishwashing soap with their surfactant that had PFAS in it, how to make a laundry detergent that had PFAS in it as a surfactant, how to make car wash stuff with surfactants that had PFAS in it. That's all gone off the website. That's no longer there. It's been scrubbed. So a lot of the things research that we'd like to do to find these things, it's getting more difficult to do that. But I certainly agree with your idea that having lists of products that have PFAS in them would be helpful for a consumer to make wise decisions. So when I look at surfactants, which are one of the major uses for PFAS nowadays, still, is to try to decide whether or not that material could contain PFAS or not. And like many people, okay, great, you switched to C6, so it's not PFOA or PFOS, but it's only a matter of time before we figure out that something else that we're using to replace the longer chain things is probably not that good either. Sure, the science isn't right there at the moment, but it will be someday. And so I really look forward to all of your ideas. As you can tell by my voice, I am passionate about this subject because I really feel bad for people that are washing babies with PFAS in it, or we're wearing clothes with PFAS in it, or whatever it might be, that we're just unwittingly being our car wash, or the car test dummies type thing for somebody. So yeah, so please, your ideas are just really helpful. Thank you to all of you for what you're doing with these ideas to help us at MPART.
Well said, Mike. You're going to take over the next meeting. You can have the next meeting. So, all right. Yeah, I think these are the great types of ideas that we can take forward and start looking at. I would encourage you, and I know many of you are in other advocacy groups as well, take these questions and ideas to your other groups. Let's continue this brainstorming on what other kinds of options are out there. My personal, I love the labeling idea, but that's a pretty big picture. I really want to get some PFAS free, good PFAS free AFFF in the hands of our firefighters. They're trying like heck to do the right thing, and they don't know what product to actually buy for their fire trucks. They don't know how to clean out their fire trucks. We are doing a video with the fire marshal that will be used for training across the state. So the average volunteer firefighter across the state will have training on PFAS. They will know what to look for, and they'll know not to use it unless it's absolutely the case of preventing preventing the loss of life. And so in those extreme circumstances, yes, they're going to use it, but then they know that they should be ready to take measures to try to contain it so that the cleanup is easier and quicker. So we'll be working a lot with our fire departments going forward, doing some more investigations in some of these other areas where fire trainings have happened. But I think for myself personally, I'm really have a passion to make sure our fire departments across the state are well supported and have some sort of alternatives to use. So we're gonna continue to push on that front. But it's going to be a long process. This is 60 years of using these chemicals. It's going to take us a while before we run out of PFAS sites and a while before we can actually turn the ship. But I do think that, and I'll get to you just in a second here, Dave. I do think that, the work that's being done here for MPART and with the Citizen Advisory Group is having ripple effects across our country. There is no doubt about it. It's having ripple effects in our legislature. It's having ripple effects. That's why you've got an infrastructure bill at the Congress right now that's talking about PFAS. That's why you've got state legislators that are talking so much about PFAS, is because of the efforts and the voices here in this meeting. And so I don't have any doubt that we are going to change the future for our kids and our grandkids and their kids, but it's going to take a lot of hard work. So I'm glad you guys are all on for the same thing. Go ahead, Mike.
Along with your fire department, we're working with EGLE/MPART are working with the state of Wisconsin and also Minnesota to figure out the new PFAS-free foams, firefighting foams. And we're working with Wisconsin to develop best management practices. If you have to use it, what is the best management practice? And other practices to do not to use it. So we are working with that too. So our hope is that our 3 states that all surround the Great Lakes, so that we're working with Minnesota and Wisconsin to do a lot of these things to do things better. So one of the things that does happen, and you don't hear a lot about, is there's always a lot of efforts going on internally at MPART and in EGLE that we're working on, and we're thrilled to be able to present those to you when they come to fruition. So my hope is over the next few months, we'll be able to come back to you and give you announcements on things, multi-state things we're working on to make it better. So you're being heard. And unfortunately, you have experience with government. We're slow, unfortunately, but we eventually get there. So as Abby said, turning the battleship around is not exactly quick. So yes. So thank you for your patience. It's appreciated.
But it can happen, and we will make it happen. So it's just a matter of just keep pushing the ship. Thank you, Mike. So let's go on to, unless we got any final thoughts, questions on this. Let me look at your comments, and Fred posted the main PFAS most far reaching to date. So thanks for Fred for that.
That's from the National Law Review.
Okay, thank you. And Sandy says the Environmental Working Group has got a list on their website for PFAS. Maybe we can link to all those PFAS resources out there and post the links on the MPART website. I think that'd be helpful. So,
hey, Abby,
all right. Yes.
Abby, before we leave to this subject, my question is, I know this is something that's been, just been presented to the group tonight. Would it make sense to say before the next meeting is for people to let it sink in a little bit and be able to send maybe some ideas to you via email, so that maybe we can put them on the list for next month and kind of start to look at some of everybody else's ideas.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that will help us also internally, because there are additional things that we haven't even mentioned here. We've got our air group is meeting with some of the platers and trying to talk with the auto industry about changing their buying habits for the plating companies, so we don't have to use mist suppressants for the chrome plating products. So it's kind of coming in the back door and saying, okay, automakers, you're driving this industry. How do we change it so that maybe as consumers we don't have shiny chrome on our cars anymore? Are we willing to accept that if we want to get rid of PFAS? I think everybody would be, right? If you can get a car that has PFAS-free bumpers, then that can be done without using mist suppressants, because they don't have to have chrome plating. So there are those kinds of efforts and discussions going on, and I'm sure there's more that we have not mentioned tonight because they're just slipping my brain. So, but yes, I like that idea, Dave. So why don't we have everybody go ahead and compile your thoughts and send them to the group, send them to Kelly, and she can put together a list for us of all the ideas for next meeting, and we can go through and start categorizing them. And I think the labeling should be elemental. Everything should be labeled just like we do our food packages with what's containing PFAS of any concentration. And the other thing is if you're going to add into that, I would add into the material safety data sheets that those would have to list PFAS, because usually it's less than 1%, so they don't have to list them. And the material safety data sheets should, and I'm calling them the wrong name, aren't I, Mike? What are they called now? Just safety data sheets?
Yeah, the official name would be SDS.
Safety data sheets, thank you. So that, again, should contain, because often we'll get a product and we'll get the safety data sheet, but it won't say if it's got PFAS in it, because it's less than 1% and they don't have to list it. So, all right, let's go to agency updates. I know this week, well, the last couple of weeks, as many of you guys have probably heard, a lot of our Department of Health and Human Service staff are down working the response in the Detroit area in Flat Rock for the leak in Ford's underground storage tank system. And so that big evacuation of those homes has kept them pretty busy. So I don't think we have anyone on from Department of Health and Human Services. Anybody called in today?
Abby, this is Sue. I'm here, but I'm not in a position to provide an update, or I don't have an update.
Okay, that's all right, Sue. Thanks for chiming in. I'll just go around who I see. Tammy is with our Department of Natural Resources. Tammy, any updates from DNR for the group that you wanted to mention tonight?
Hey, Abby, thanks. Sorry, I have to keep my camera off tonight, but I think since the last time this group has left, one thing has happened is the release of a report regarding the second round of deer testing up near Clark's Marsh. So that was Sue, I'm in your territory now. That was a DHHS issued report in collaboration and cooperation with the DNR. And the extra sampling event allowed some additional data, some additional statistical analyses to occur, and then consultation with the deer biologists, resulting in the do not eat for the deer in the Oscoda area being reduced to 3 miles around Clark's Marsh. So it gives hunters and landowners in the area a few more places to hunt this fall, and still with some good certainty that there's the protection of public health. So that report is on the PFAS or the MPART website for folks if you want to take a look at it. And we have talked about it publicly with the Oscoda community. And that's all I have tonight, Abby.
Thank you, Tammy. That does remind me that we will be talking on Thursday night with the Wolverine Community Advisory Group about some sampling for fish and surface water in the Rogue River. And I am anticipating, Sue, you can probably help me, that the new Eat Safe Fish Guide should be out in the next month or so. I'm thinking that's what I heard, was that Eat Safe Fish guideline will be out. So as soon as that gets posted, we will let you guys all know that that's been updated out on the website. Let's see, who else do we have on here from our agencies? Do we have Chris Kosmowski? Anything from MPART that you'd want to share from the group, with the group?
Hi, Abby. No, I don't have anything this evening. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Chris. Just looking through my list here. All right, I think that is all of our agencies that we've got on tonight. And all right, let's go to the next slide then. Unless I'm forgetting anything, Amy or Kelly can yell at me if I've forgotten anything. So community feedback. There's been a lot going on in the last 2 months since we last met. What are you guys involved in? What kinds of community outreach have you been doing? Thoughts, areas of the state that we should be reaching out to? Anybody had any interesting collaborations going on in the last couple months that they would like to share with the group? And how about if I call on Sandy and Tony to give us maybe a little update or a sneak preview for their Great Lakes PFAS Action Network, and tell us how things are going with that.
Is Tony still here?
I am, but Sandy, I'm going to let you go first.
You are a brat. God.
I thought you were going to say he was a gentleman.
I ain't saying that. It's too late. So we did do an interesting outreach over in Oscoda, and I thought what was fascinating by that, I drove over there, one, because Oscoda is beautiful, but they did a bus tour of the different sites there, and it was really educational. I mean, I think all of our communities have different unique characteristics of how they've been contaminated, and to go into another community and see that was really eye-opening at the extent, but also it made you understand kind of the difference in communities. So someday when COVID is over, and I truly believe that will happen, I think that'd be an interesting thing for us to try to put together, is just pick 5 or 6 really key contamination sites and do tours of that, so people understand, because the contamination at a military base is really different than a contamination at an industrial site, and yet it's not. It's all the same. We were using the same language and everything. So the Great Lakes PFAS Action Network, we're starting trying to get some community groups that can kind of use each other as resources and supports as communities go through this, because nobody knows what it's like unless you've been impacted by it as well. Every community has their own needs and interests and flavor and take on it. And so I think we're just trying to find a way that we can strengthen our voice together and work with legislators and government officials and manufacturers to reduce this problem. So Tony, if you have anything to add, you better jump in.
I'm just going to say it was very well said. And for everybody who is on the call this evening from the at the community level, I would urge you, hopefully our team will be reaching out to you, but I urge you to reach out as well. And Sandy, the website is what? glpan.org?
glpan.org.
Yeah.
glpan.org. Yep.
Yes. I think that there are a lot of potential synergies that we can draw on We did, as part of the group, a statewide showing of the film No Defense, and then a panel discussion on Detroit Public Television's Facebook page that was very well watched and received. And we're going to have some things coming up in October with a legislative agenda, and then really dig into the outreach into communities, and again talking about how, as Sandy said, when she came to Oscoda, she could see similarities and differences and opportunities to brainstorm and work together. So I do think, Abby, I would just add a couple things apart from the network. I am hearing through one of the discussions I've had with some folks from the Detroit area that they're still feeling like they're kind of being left out or underserved in this whole PFAS process. And so I just really wanted to kind of bring that to the attention of the group. Sandy and I actually were involved in a forum on that here a few weeks ago. So I think that's an important thing to address. I also just, and it kind of pains me to say this, but the Need Our Water group in Oscoda collaborated with the National Wildlife Federation to put together a report on Oscoda, very carefully written and crafted, very, I think, very well done over a lengthy period of time. And disappointed really in Eagle's reaction to it. It was very dismissive, and it was really viewed within the community as both insulting and really a shot across the bow of the community, and something that also really hurts Eagle's credibility within the community. So I just want to bring that to the attention of this body in terms of process and in terms of being sensitive to the needs of victims and victimized communities. I just don't think there are better ways to handle it than it was handled. So just providing that feedback as well. So those are, that's just kind of an overview of things, and I will pass to whoever's next.
Okay, thanks, Tony, for that. If Tony, on the Detroit thing, if you can shoot me an email with some additional details on the community and the area you're specifically talking about, we'll make sure we get some reach out to that area and to those local leaders to make sure that something gets done there. I know, Tony, you and I and the governor's office have a meeting coming up with National Wildlife Federation to talk more about that report. So I think that's still in process to get some additional conversation on.
I certainly hope so. Yeah.
It's with I'm positive that that's either I'm pretty sure that it got pushed due to conflicts with schedules, but I'm pretty sure it's on my calendar to have some additional conversations. So if you weren't aware of that, that is in process, and we will continue to have some additional conversations. So I don't think that conversation's actually over yet.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, Abby, this is Connie. I'd just like to support what Tony has said. We do feel like we are neglected, and I do really, really want to emphasize that as much as you may, not you personally, but as much as Eagle may talk about transparency, I can tell you it definitely is lacking. And there is, I almost don't have any faith in state government anymore because of my experiences that I've had with Eagle in the Southwest, in the Southeast Michigan District Office. So I want to emphasize wholeheartedly and back up and support what Tony has said. That's it.
Is there a particular part of Detroit that is, you think, being underserved, or just the whole area?
I'll talk to you about it separately.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Because we're way past 7:30 already.
All right. Why don't we do that, Connie?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thanks, Connie. Anyone else have any community outreach that they have done or would like to share? Sue? Want to jump in?
I just wanted to share that Stephanie White, who is one of our health educators, and I will be in Oscoda this weekend at the Paul Bunyan Festival. We'll have some information on PFAS, but then also other contaminants, general well maintenance. We're bringing up some HABs fact sheets. So just wanted to let you all know that we'll be in Osceola this weekend.
Go to all the fun stuff, Sue. So I want to go to the Paul Bunyan Festival. All right. Any other thoughts, questions? Public outreach.
I have my hand raised.
Oh, there you are, Mickey. Yep, please jump in.
Thursday of this week, there's the monthly meeting of the Marquette Area Wastewater Treatment Advisory Board. And you give a monthly update on the status of PFAS with respect to how it affects the wastewater plant. For example, in July, state mandated testing of the effluent and the solids for PFAS was initiated. And we have one gentleman on our board who was quite skeptical of the need to pay attention to PFAS. And his constant challenge to me is, what's it going to do to me if I come in contact with PFAS? So your challenge, and I don't have an answer to it, but I will be pondering it and sharing some ideas with people, is how do you convince a virus weary population that there's another battle that needs to be fought without telling them facts of what the battle is about and what the value is to them to fight the battle? And for example, is if you have PFAS containing firefighting foam and a really bad fire that if it gets out of control will kill, hundreds of people, is it going to be one or the other, or can you use PFAS foam to stop the fire and then use other things to engage to stop it from traveling more? For example, do you not use the PFAS foam because of the risk, even though the risk of the fire getting out of control is worse? So I'm constantly challenged by this man to give him a reason why he should care about PFAS. And I would encourage anybody who can give me such a reason, short and sweet, to contact me between now and Thursday, so I have a better answer for him.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's lots of good reasons why it's important to look at PFAS. The fact that it bioaccumulates in our bodies and can take years to get out of our bodies, with the very limited science that we have on the toxicological effects of said chemicals in our bodies, I think that's not something we want to pass on to our children or have that legacy continue. So
for anybody who would like to send me a great reason like that, my email address is part of the system, but basically it's mickeyBrumm@AOL.com. I would welcome any comments like that about why we should pay attention to PFAS, because again, I'm going in Thursday with an update and I would like to hear from you. So,
and I will offer, Mickey, if you want to get a group together, we can have a quick overview of PFAS for your group and answer questions. Because I think, having personal questions and being able to talk about these stories is the kind of
I will offer to the team this Thursday an agenda item where we invite you to join us via computer to talk about PFAS, why we should be concerned about it, and I'll get back to you. I mean, I think that's a great idea, because as much as I've been sharing what I know, sharing a team with the wastewater plant might be the best way to go, but I appreciate that. I'll bring that up this Thursday and see if I can get them interested in inviting you.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
On those same notes, I'll start wrapping this up for you guys. Pam McQueer, Gail Dugan, and I are looking at doing a PFAS informational session for the Otsego area. That's looking at mid-October right now. And Pam is working, as she says in the comments here, on making MPART and PFAS one of her platform items as she goes around to speak through the country. So that'll be great to have Pam out there, not just networking to Michigan, but all the way across the country. So very excited about that. Okay, Good. This is great. This is great feedback. I really appreciate everybody's time tonight. Kelly, do we have any more slides? One more slide, Kelly, if you can push it forward for me.
Did it not go on my screen? It went.
There it is. Now it is. There we go. So we're back to monthly meetings. Our next meeting is October 12th. Let's take and do the homework that Dave suggested of having everybody think about preventative measures. And I think it's a brainstorming session. So let's just throw everything in a list and start coming up with what are the things that we can work on quickly, what are the long-term goals, those kinds of things that we can do not only as the Community Advisory Work Group, but also as the state of Michigan, as citizens, as users of products that come in from around the world. Think big picture globally, as well as the little things that we can do. So I think that's a great takeaway for tonight. And so hopefully we will have a few of our members back for the next meeting. That I know Ken and a few people were not able to be with us tonight, but I appreciate everybody taking the time to be here. Any agenda items to Kelly, please, this is your meeting too, so please send us agenda items. And just know there's a lot going on behind the scenes. And as Tony and I were talking about, we're going to continue to work on implementing public notification, and we'll just keep working on it. I don't think it's ever one fell swoop and everything gets done to perfection. We need to continue to work on that and make it a better process as we go through. So we'll close it up there. I already took too much of your time. So any final thoughts or questions for tonight? All right, you guys are the foundation of success here. So thank you for your time, effort, dedication, passion. The fact that we can get this many people on a call on a Tuesday night once a month to talk about PFAS and continue to show up, it's just fabulous. So thank you so much for your time and energy. Have a good night.
Okay, good night.
Thank you.
Night.
Thanks. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. See you. Thank you.